We're talking about the four pillars really everybody's retirement plan needs. And really, I think, Mitch, is it fair to say when you think of protection or preservation, growth, income, liquidity, the retirement's not different than our working years. We need basically all four of those probably during our working years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to some extent, right? I mean, you maybe need less protection from stock market volatility when you're 25 or 30 or 35 than you do when you're 60 or 65 and you're closing in on or in retirement, like we like to call the retirement red zone. Similar to a football game, you get into that red zone, the last 20 yards of the field, things tighten up, the game changes, and it's no different in retirement. You need to be more conscious of protection in retirement, but there's a place for it all along the way. And as you get closer, you've got to tighten that up and make sure you're built the fortress around your nest egg.
So you think about protection, growth, income, and liquidity. One of the things that I think is probably one of the bigger, we were just talking about, my grandparents retired in the 70s. They had pension, Social Security. It's a different retirement than mine, right? I have a 401k, IRA money or whatever, but I don't have an NFL retirement like Mitch. Mitch is easy street. It's all good. How many years do you have to be to get the pension in the NFL? Is it 3 or 4?
Yeah, it's 3 years and 3 games. So 3 games constitutes a season in the NFL. But
so you made 7 years.
I made 7 years. I tell people that's twice the NFL average, right? And so I fooled them as long as I could, but eventually father time or the injury bug sneaks up on you, as it did with me with a blown out knee to end my career. But yeah, I was blessed and fortunate to play 7 years, and I have a pension, which again is a blessing because a lot of jobs don't have that anymore. So there's that, but that's only a piece of the pie.
A piece of the pie. Yeah, it's a good piece of the pie to have. But my point was, or I guess my question will be, is you think about all those other things, extraneous things, but we don't really think about taxes. So we're talking about retirement, the 4 pillars: protection, growth, income, and liquidity. One thing we have to watch for are taxes taking too much out of our income, if you will.
Without a doubt, right? I mean, it doesn't, and I learned this lesson early on with my first signing bonus check from the Atlanta Falcons in 1993. All of a sudden, I knew I was signing. My signing bonus back then, people are going to laugh at this when they hear NFL bonuses now, but I was a 6th round pick, and I got a $37,500 signing bonus for my first.
All right, Mitch. 1977. Yeah. I was
Nowadays,
a 6th round. No, I was a 6th round draft choice of the Dodgers. 1977. What was my signing bonus?
I'm going to say
17.5.
Well, that wasn't bad then. You were a little more highly valued commodity than me, I guess. But my point to that is, I'm thinking I'm getting this check for $37,500, and come on, I've been working through college and stuff, cashing checks with 2 digits on them, right? So I didn't know much about taxes at that point. All of a sudden, I see the bottom line. I've got like $26,000, and I called my mom and I said, "Mom, what's this FICA? What's FICA? What the heck is that?" Right? I mean, that was a hard lesson to learn, but it doesn't matter what that top line number says, right? It's ultimately what you're bringing home. And that's important. It's as important in retirement, or more important than it is during your working years, because it's about what, you're paying for stuff with after tax cash, right? So we need to factor that into that retirement of steel blueprint and say, okay, that's great. You've got $1 million in your 401k. What's it really worth? Because it's not $1 million, right? That Uncle Sam's sitting there with his hand out and he wants his share. He gave you all that deferral all these years, but the bottom line is you got to pay the piper. And so that has to be factored in. And there are some things we can do in advance of retirement to help mitigate that.
This is really important, though. Taxes are, you get to 73, 74, depending on when you were born, the government's going to make you take out 4%, and that number, 3.8, something like that, but it just keeps going up as you go. The other thing that we tend to we hope for a smooth sailing, Mitch, right? There's no question about it. A lot of your NFL buddies go really good for 10, 20 years, and then all of a sudden they get a little older, and now the healthcare issues kick in. It's kind of a scary thing, I think, I don't know how many concussions I've had, but I'm guessing I got knocked out twice in games. I know that. One in baseball, diving headfirst into the shin guard at home plate, and that was the first inning. I don't remember till the 5th, but I did hit a double in that time period, so I felt good about that. Football game, I missed 2 quarters. That I started the first, and the next thing I remember, it's the 4th. so who knows? But healthcare, that is another huge deal, kind of like taxes, that we don't want to think about, but we really have to.
Well, absolutely. And as you get older, I think we all recognize that, right? The aches and pains become a little more prevalent. And while we try to take care of ourselves, it's maybe not as easy as it was back at 20 to drop that 10 pounds you're trying to lose. And so, number one, taking care of yourself is a huge help and offsetting some of these future problems. So I always encourage people to take care of their bodies, just like they want to take care of their retirement portfolio. But yeah, you want to take advantage of whatever breaks we can get. A health savings account is a step in the right direction towards building up some dollars that can be used tax free for healthcare expenses. Making sure you're taking care of on insurance, right? Making sure you make the right decisions on Medicare. That's all something that we can help folks with into determining what they need for their specific situation.
So there's a lot of moving parts, healthcare, taxes, things that you have to think about at some point. And it's not, you can't push these things off. Legacy planning, all the stuff that Mitch and the team at Mitch Lyons Wealth can help you with, is you can't wait till, I'm 80 now, so I better start thinking about long-term care or legacy planning. I mean, you can't wait for that, right? Taxes, well, I don't need to worry about that till I get to my RMD age of 73 or 74, depending on when I was born, 73 or 75. So me, born in 1959, if you're earlier than that, you're at 70, 73. If you're born like Mitch, 1960 or later, your RMD age is 75. That will change in 2033 to that point. So once you get there, it's not like, well, at that point, Mitch, I guess, hey, Mitch, I'm turning 73 this next month, and what can I do about my taxes, that RMD stuff that I have to pull out here coming up? I mean, people push things down the road. We do procrastinate.
I was just going to say, I mean, just like our government, people love to kick the can down the road, right? I'll get to that someday, right? And someday just keeps on coming until you're there, and then you haven't taken the steps to make sure you've got as much left in your bank account after the taxes come out, or healthcare eats away at it. So it's so important, and it doesn't take it's so intimidating, I think, a lot of times for folks to address the big monster in the room, which is our retirement and aging and dealing with those issues of getting older. Right? They've gone through it. They see it with their parents, and yet they still kick the can down the road for their situation. Oh, I'll get to it sometime. What I'm saying is, hey, stop kicking the can down the road. Give us a call. Let's get the process started and get you on the right road to get you where you want to be. Let's identify where you want to go, and let's put you on a plan to get there. It's not as hard as it seems. We take the load off you. All we need is some conversations and identify what you're trying to accomplish, and we can put a plan together to help you get there.
We're talking about the 4 pillars that really all retirement plans need, and really our everyday lives, right? We need some protection with our money. We need growth. We need income. And we also need liquidity for those emergency situations. So we talked about healthcare and taxes. I kind of think like inflation is kind of something like that. Inflation, we don't have a lot of control over. There's ways to plan for it. Like health, we don't have a lot of health. We have some control over health, not a ton. And taxes, kind of the same thing. There are ways to plan around all of those. How about inflation? How does that factor in?
It's a huge factor, right? Because if we know it goes up, historically, say 3 to 4%. Now we've seen some times here recently where it was 8, 9, 10%, and we still see some of that inflation in our, going down the grocery aisles. And I don't do a lot of our grocery shopping. And all of a sudden I was getting coffee the other day, and I went to buy my usual bag of coffee that I, in my head was going to be 12 or 13 bucks. All of a sudden it's $18, right? So you start factoring in some of these tariffs and just inflation in general, and it's eye opening. So you've got to account for that and have income sources that aren't going to just stay stagnant, right? You need income that's going to increase over time, and take into account that inflation is going to start chomping away at your purchasing power over time. And you don't notice it. It's one of those things that creeps in year to year, from now till next year, 2, 3, 4%, no big deal. When you start timesing that by 10 years, things have changed a lot. So if your income's not growing along with that, you're going to run into trouble.
So I think one of the biggest things as a 66-year-old now, just had a birthday not long ago. It's kind of crazy to think I'm 66. I never thought I'd get to 60, I think.
You don't look a day over 65, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. You think about, though, to me, it's the balance between protection, preservation, and growth. We need growth. I think that's what everybody comes into retirement, Mitch, and it seems like all the money's sitting in 401ks, IRAs. I mean, it's all about growth. You get to retirement, now you have a whole different strategy. You've gone from, the accumulation phase to distribution phase. They're different.
They're absolutely different. I mean, in the risk you run into in that situation, like volatility in the market is great as you're saving, right? When you're 20 years out of retirement, hey, every time that market drops, great. You're just buying more shares of that mutual fund in your 401k. when you're putting that, $1,000 a month or whatever it might be in, you're just dollar cost average, and you're benefiting from those drops in the market because you're buying low. But in retirement, when all of a sudden you start taking money out and the market's dropping, use an example. You've got $100,000 and you take $4,000 out and the market goes down 20%. Well, you're not at 96 or 100. You're down below 80, right? And now the next year, if you take that same $4,000 out, that's a much greater percentage. And I'm not a math guy, but 4,000 is a greater percentage of 80 than it is of 100, right? So you're going to start having the snowball go the wrong way, downhill, and your account balance is in jeopardy. And that's what we call sequence of returns risk. It's a very real risk. It's not as much of a return or a risk, 20 years out from retirement, but when you're in retirement, it's critical and it has to be addressed.